competence requires a clear mind free of fear and fret. I think we can all agree to that. How do lawyers as a group respond to the challenges that they face in daily life, both in their work and in their personal lives? Let's take a look at that. We don't know if lawyers as a group were pessimists before they went to law school, or if something about legal training turned them into pessimists. Dr. Martin Seligman, a psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, he tested the entire law school class of the Virginia 1990 School of Law. And he measured them with standard measures of pessimism versus optimism. What he discovered was that the most pessimistic of those students did the best on all standard measures of law school performance. In fact, he told us that the level of pessimism that was common in that group of law students was greater than the amount of pessimism that you would typically find in a group of clinically depressed individuals. And what made this problem even more insidious was that it was the most difficult form of pessimism, because not only was it global, that is to say that, or constant rather, that is to say bad things happen and they happen regularly, but it was global in that they affected their entire life, and it was internalized. So not bad things happen because of outside events that I have no control over, but because I wasn't good enough. I didn't do a good enough job preparing, I didn't study hard enough, and so forth. So this form of thinking that we unfortunately find common in the legal profession has led another law school professor named Lawrence Krager at the School of Law in Florida to conclude that thinking like a lawyer is a legal skill, not necessarily a life skill. He tells us that your skills as a lawyer are useful in certain professional contexts, but need not and should not dictate how you approach your personal life nor assume your entire identity. Well, how do we human beings respond to the challenges we face? Well, the stress response is our body's reaction to a challenge or a threatening situation. Of course, it's built into our physical being to protect us and to preserve the species. But today, are we typically responding in situations, stressful situations, to something that challenges our survival? Typically not. So my favorite example for legal professionals is, imagine for a moment that you're in the middle of an important deposition and you're getting increasingly ticked off at the line of questioning of the opposing counsel. What is it that your body is telling you to do? Well, most of you have heard of the fight or flight response. What it's doing is it's telling you to do one of two things: either lean across the table and slug opposing counsel, or jump up from the table, run out of the room, run out of the building, get in your car and drive away. That is why it's called the fight or flight response. Well, we human beings have extrapolated this mechanism one step further. To our knowledge, we are the only life form on the planet that has not only the capacity but the inclination to have this stressful response, not only in reaction to something that's happening immediately in front of you, but in response to anything that we imagine might be coming down the road that we have to face. We typically call this worrying. We anticipate some major challenge, and the more threatening or more difficult that challenge might be, the more we react with that stress response that I mentioned a moment ago. Perhaps not to the degree or intensity if it were happening right in front of us, but the more vividly we can imagine in our heads how challenging that situation is going to be, the more intense the physical reaction is going to happen. So that's why I'm fond of saying that when it comes to managing the stress that we all have to contend with day in and day out, your mind can be your own worst enemy. Or another way of putting it is, it's dark and scary, don't go too far in there. So what is it that really determines how much stress we face in response to any particular given situation or circumstance. Is it the absolute challenge that we face, or is it how we respond and react to that challenge? Well, ultimately, obviously, it's a combination of the two. And this is, of course, by no means a new thought. William Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet sometime in the early 1600s that things are neither good nor bad, 'tis thinking that makes it so. Or as another great writer, Mark Twain, put it, he said, I've known many troubles in my life, most of which didn't happen. So what can we control? Well, obviously, seldom can legal professionals have ultimate, entire control over the situations that they face or have to deal with, or the matters they have to contend with on a daily basis. So ultimately, the only thing we can control is how we respond to those circumstances. And that's one of the things that Viktor Frankl, a famous psychiatrist who survived a concentration camp, taught us. He said that no matter how extreme the circumstances we find ourselves in, there's always one thing that they, of course in his case, they were the powers that kept him captive, one thing that they couldn't take away, and that was how he and his fellow captives responded and reacted to whatever it was that they threw at them. And he said having control over that, or exercising control over it, it was ultimately what allowed the people in the camp to survive or not. So what we're really talking about is the ultimate power of now. That is to say, the more to which we are physically and mentally present in the moment will dictate and determine how much ultimately stress we are experiencing. Because the vast bulk of our time, our minds are not in this moment. They're off somewhere else, somewhere in the past, fretting over something that happened before or worrying about something coming up down the road. That's where our minds want to go. So as you're listening to me at this moment, I know that there's only a certain amount of your attention that's paying attention to this video, because the rest of it's back there in those deep, dark, scary resources of your mind telling you all these other things that you should be fretting about. And that's the way we, as human beings, tend to think. So learning to have some ability to control the degree to which your mind wants to go to those dark, scary places will ultimately, in the long run, determine how much you can control the amount in which your body responds to the challenges that you have to face day in and day out. This practice has come to be called mindfulness. What we're really talking about is developing the mental discipline to be able to focus your attention to a greater degree on what it is that you are doing and experiencing in this moment, to the exclusion of what those things are that tend to most cause you fear and panic. And there are a number of different practices that are engaged in today. Meditation is one that's quite common as a means of learning to develop the mental discipline to focus that attention on the here and now. Mindfulness practices are becoming increasingly popular for legal professionals. In fact, if you go to your search bar after you finish watching this video and you type in mindfulness for lawyers, you will find quite a number of sites that pop up that are exclusively about how various different kinds of mindfulness practices can benefit legal professionals in their daily lives and in their legal practice. I encourage you to give some consideration and take a look at how this might benefit you as well. Thank you for your time and attention.